Welcome in. I am so glad you guys are here tonight. I am so sorry. We had a slight delay, but we are here. Okay. So we had to make sure everything was perfect for the show tonight because I have a fantastic show for us once again set up. I have part 2 of our vampire series with Jimmy Paine and James Rink tonight. And we're not only going to talk about vampires, we're going to talk about reanimated corpses. Okay. And a lot of very cutting edge information, a lot of disclosure tonight that might just blow your mind. And Jimmy has promised me this is going to be pretty wild. Okay. So you guys go get your popcorn, buckle up, because we are in for a wild ride tonight. And not only, yeah. Oh, by the way, this is not an actual remote viewing show tonight. Okay, this is going to be part 2 of the series of our vampires show. And so for my Patreon members, my Patreon is actually, it really coincides with my remote viewing show. So you guys have an exclusive American Vampire Target tonight over there in Patreon. So if you guys would like to go check that out, you can become a member of my Patreon. That's the Cryptid Huntress on Patreon. Okay. Also, if you'd like to follow along with my shows, I do have a website. That's thecryptidhuntress.com, where you can find everything I'm doing, all my shows, all the events I'm going to be at, and you can send me messages through that. And I do apologize. I have a ton of messages right now, and I don't have a secretary or anybody to help me. I'm a one-man band, a one-woman band over here. So y'all, please forgive me for not getting back to y'all in time. I try to get back, but I'm going to work on that this weekend. I promise. Okay, I do. And I'm overwhelmed with all the support from all of you guys and all the love, and it just makes me feel really good. Okay, so thank y'all so much. All right. Well, I don't want to waste any time tonight. I have such a great show. We're going to be here this show's going to go for a while tonight. Okay. So we might even need to take a break. Who knows? But let's spend tonight with like an open heart and an open mind. And really, you guys help me welcome my guests to the show tonight. Let me give them both a formal introduction. James Rink is a super soldier, meditation practitioner, researcher, author, and video producer. Through his Super Soldier Talk YouTube series, he has helped awaken humanity to the secret activities of the covert government, uncovering topics such as brainwashing, trauma, milabs, which stands for military abductions, and covert harassment, all of which he has had to endure his entire life as a product of Project Surrogate and MK Ultra Milab Super Soldier experimentation. His book Lone Wolf chronicles these projects. Super soldier agent Jimmy Paine, aka Dallas, was in the secret space program from 1959 to 1996. During this time, he was a shuttlecraft pilot in the Tall White Warriors at Area 51 and participated in time travel missions with the Montauk Boys at Camp Hero. He also recalls working with the Weyland Corporation, where he encountered a xenomorph at LV-426, which the movie Aliens were based off of. He was stationed on Mars, Titan, and the Moon. He has a much longer bio. You guys, it's in the description box. Y'all go see that. And please help me welcome to the show tonight my friends James Rink and Jimmy Paine. Hey, guys. Hey, James. Thanks
Hello.
for being here.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I promise you this show won't be a pain in the neck. But everybody get your Bloody Marys ready because today we have Jimmy Paine on again, and we're going to learn a lot of amazing things. In particular, we're going to find out. Actually, for Jessica, so what did Dracula say to the zombie?
Oh, gosh, I don't know, but it correlates to this show. What did it say?
There isn't a single meal in you. So go ahead. Jimmy, go ahead.
Oh, my gosh, you're making me brain dead with those. Just kidding. Okay. That's great.
Jimmy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. That's a good joke, James.
So, Jimmy, what's the one state Dracula doesn't like?
The one what?
The one state Dracula doesn't like.
A cooked one.
Alabama, because they all taste the same.
Oh, come on.
Okay.
Come on, Alabama.
All right, Jimmy. So okay, we're probably going to go to Louisiana here to New Orleans, where this story begins. For those of you, maybe you should quickly recap what happened in part 1 of this show.
Okay, well, I'm going to pick up where I left off at. Um, in 1728, when the Pelican ship landed in New France, which is the port of Mobile, uh, the, their mail order brides got off, and these women were picked up out of prisons, prostitutes, whatever. The King Louis had promised the French men of the settlement of what we call New Orleans brides, and but it was noticed in the Bay of Mobile, and plus the Biloxi um, colony. The French also had a colony in Biloxi, Mississippi, that these women looked different. Um, they believed back then that they had consumption, which is what we now call tuberculosis. But in fact, these females were vampires. They're called the coffin girls. Okay. Now, I think the best way to start off tonight is to say that what I'm about to tell, to make known public, that is that Jessica and James has not heard this story, and just because my beliefs are different than theirs, y'all should not hold either one, James or Jessica, liable for what I'm about to say tonight.
Uh-oh.
So
Okay.
that includes politics and religion and political correctness. So I'm going to start off, kind of tell you that when I was a little boy, back in 1962, I was taken to the ARCO facility up in Evans, Pennsylvania. Now, when you get around 5, you get ready to go through MK Ultra, manufacture killers utilizing lethal tradecraft requiring assassination. That is what MK Ultra stands for. Now, the little girls go through Monarch, which is basically a cocoon that turns into a beautiful butterfly. In other words, they have sex training, kitten training. But getting back to my story, when I got up to Evans, Pennsylvania, I went into a building that had 2 large transformers out front, and it didn't have no windows in the front of the building. And there was also barbed wire and a goat out front. And it was on a county road, a blacktop road. It's a very rural area. Most of the farms had closed up in 1962. And but what happened was there was a sign out front that said ARCO, just a plain white sign on a wood board, and then it said underneath it said veterinarian school. Now, ARCO is kind of I didn't really understand what that meant when I got there because I'm still a child, but it has 2 meanings. It could be Accelerated Research Central Office, or it could be Army Research Central Office. When you're looking for funds from Congress, well, from the Department of Defense, you have to rename these programs many times over, change the wording around. But when I got in there, I'm going to describe the inside this building. There were cages in there, and there was animals in there. There was pigs, dogs, rabbits, and one very vicious baboon. And 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 in that um, research facility, there were tracks overhead where you could have a little pulley that had slings on it, and you could put an animal in there like a cow, hoist it up, and you could track it down to an autopsy table and put the cow on and open it up. Now, for some of y'all who don't know this, um, the Arco facility is about 5 miles from a cemetery, and that cemetery is where a movie was shot back in 1967, an old black and white movie called Night of the Living Dead. And this dealt with reanimation of cadavers. But for tonight, I don't want to get into that too deep because I promised to talk about vampires. But another thing I want to say is the children that were in my class were all of German descent, and I am of German descent. I also have family in the old country, the fatherland, and I have family here in the United States. So I'm kind of stepping between two countries here, and so I'm very patriotic, but your government is not very comfortable with me at times. And but getting back to the children in the class, their parents were basically paperclip scientists, and they're young, they're barely out of school, some of them 18 years old, and they're having a hard time because your government is steadily looking at us. And I mean, we could be anybody from your high school football player to your cheerleader, but we carry ourselves very differently. And then some of us have the ability. We can remote view. We're gifted, and we can also have KT. Excuse me, TK, telekinesis. So to get on with it, there was a doctor there that I met named Dr. Green, Joseph Green, in a white lab coat. And Dr. Green was rather a quiet man. He was all into research, and his family was his students. So, being all that we were, outcast, we kind of took to one another. Now, if you ever watched to get a better idea of this facility, if you ever watched on I think it's on the YouTube channels, Alien Autopsy, Fact or Fiction, and it shows the camera, the black and white film. It comes into focus and it goes out of focus. Well, that was one of my first autopsies that I filmed. I was only like about 11 years old, trying to use an 8mm spring-loaded camera. So that's why the focus goes in and out. All right, but so let's get on tonight and kind of tell you what happened. In 1962, the Berlin Wall is starting to be erected, and a lot of the children being smuggled out from East Germany were coming up missing. And but anyhow, one of our lab assistants named Julia intercepted a little girl, a little blonde-headed girl, And it come to find out it was Satanists getting ready to use her for a human sacrifice. This little girl's about 3.5 years old. So she's able to get the little girl away from the Satanist. And the little girl is like, has diarrhea very bad. She's ate up with insects, insect bites, and she's dehydrated real bad. So she comes to the Arco facility, and we're thinking that she's one of the paperclip children, and we get her there, and she says her name is Kathy. And but anyway, the little girl has to get a blood transfusion, and so we give her blood, and she it takes a few days to build her strength up. She is incredibly weak. And it turns out that when the family did show up, it wasn't their daughter. So it turned out the little girl was named Kathy O'Brien. Now, Kathy O'Brien writes a book called Transformation of America. And she talks a little about the ARCO facility. But Kathy is my friend, but she's not German. She's just mistaken to be German. So that's the only person I can get to vouch for this story tonight. But I'm going to now move on. I'm through covering that. I want to go ahead and move on to Germany. Now, if you have a vampire, there's certain things you need to know. Like if a vampire can make his skin blend in with the surrounding terrain, he's a vastly of military interest, because if we can make soldiers blend in with the foliage, they're less likely to get shot. And there's other things to consider as well. If you have somebody that, say, is in an automobile accident, or somebody that gets shot in war and they lose a limb or something, it's well known that reptilians, lizards, if they get their tail cut off, they can grow another tail. So what I'm trying to say is, we're trying to grow limbs and arms. If you lose your arm, we want to grow another arm. And there's other things that are of interest. We know that they're telepathic, that most of them are mutes. I've never heard a vampire speak, so they're telepathic. So, and there's other things to consider. If you're, say, paraplegic, if you can regenerate those nerves, then we can heal a paraplegic as well. So that is why the military is interested in vampires. I'm not a vampire hunter. It's just that we're looking at it from a military perspective. Okay. Now, Joseph Mengele, I'm going to tell his story tonight because he's dead. And we all know that the royal family of England shapeshifts. I've seen the Queen shapeshift, so has Arizona Wilder. She's another one of my friends. But the thing is that during World War II, when Germany invaded Poland, it was because during the First World War, Germany was broken up. Parts of Germany was taken from it, and the breadbasket where they grow their crops at was given to Poland. So the Germans are simply reinvading their own homeland. And just like you have people now in the American Southwest that don't speak English, that's roaming around. Well, that's the same thing what happened to the Germans. They don't know who's in their country. So they start to round up people for deportation. Now, what happened was Joseph Mengele, before he was sent to Auschwitz, he was a medic, a corpsman, and a tank was hit with a missile, and he got out of the trench and he went to the tank. He pulled 2 Germans out that were on fire. He pulled them off. He put the fire out and dragged them to safety. So Joseph Mengele, Captain Mengele, is a hero. It doesn't matter what uniform you wear, what country you fight for. If you risk your life to save 2 other human beings, you are a hero. Now, I realize that people would disagree with that tonight. They would call him a monster. They would probably call his class students insane. And for God knows what the church would say of us, for the things that we've done. But it's all for science. We want to know if when a person dies, can we bring them back? We want to know what is death, what happens to us when we die. What's it like? Can you hear somebody? We're going to answer those questions as I speak on tonight. So what happened was, when these immigrants started to be taken in to the camps, everything seemed normal. But every once in a while, they'll come across a deformed person. Now, a deformed person's, they need special care. So they can't be, some of them, can't be put in with regular prisoners because they have special needs. And, you have to balance compassion here. But a strange thing started happening. They started seeing deformed people that had, instead of having toes on their feet, they had hoofs like animals. And then they were seeing people with their eyes would be normal pupils, and then they would split like a cat eye, the slits on a cat eye. And there was other strange things, web hands, web feet. And these people looked very pale. Now, there was 3 SS women served during the time Auschwitz, during the few years it was opened. Now, one of these women was named Irma Grease. She's an SS warden of Auschwitz. And if you're going to make the women get undressed, you want them to get undressed in front of other women. And she was seeing things that was very unusual. Now, Irma is only 22 years old, and she was having an affair with Joseph Mengele. Joseph Mengele was married at the time with Lorraine, and he had asked his wife to come to Poland. She refused. So he's having an affair with a much younger woman. And anyway, Irma is telling Mengele, about these strange people. So Mengele, when he was young, going through medical school, his specialty was clipped lip. That is a deformity of the lips. Go down a few pictures. Going down a little bit on that. Going down a little bit. Right there, that picture right there. Can you blow that one picture up? All right. That's her right there. You see the British soldier behind her? Now, when they had the Nuremberg trials, they paraded the top Nazis and they broadcast around the world. But one thing is very interesting. This girl was hung prior to those trials. She wasn't allowed a fair trial. Okay? She is being guarded by a British soldier. And basically, the royal family is not wanting the secret to get out about vampires. So they hung her, they hung the other two female wardens of Auschwitz. All right. If you really want to prove your point to the world, why not bring these 3 women and put them on trial with those 12 men? So from Jump Street, history's being covered up. Now, what happened was Joseph Mengele, when he was examining these individuals, he didn't want to cause a scare, so he took people that had like hepatitis, leprosy, whatever, those up towards the front of the medical barracks, facing the wire. You quarantine people who have deadly diseases. And he would put these rather special people in the backside of the camp where nobody could see them, where he could study them. And but what he was finding out was if they didn't have blood or plasma, their eyes would turn from normal to a cat eye, is what I'm trying to say. And so when Germany started to lose the war, Joseph Mengele, Captain Mengele, was ordered to pull back and take his research and head back towards the Owl Mountains. Okay, so he left with crates of blood samples and some in documents, pictures and films of these rather strange entities that we're talking about. And he got outside right around about Nuremberg, and he hid these films along with the blood samples. All right. And he walked up to an American soldier, turned himself in, and the Americans had him, and they let him loose after, he had made contact. So he did not try to flee the American forces, but he was concerned with the British and the Russians. Okay. So what happened, he knew the secret that we are being terraformed. And he also knew that the royal family was not all human. Okay? Now, I'm going to start telling you how I confirmed all this. Back years ago, we're going to talk about Dracula now. Who is Dracula? Is he real? What do we know about him? And this is what I found out. There's a little truth to it, and there's a little disappointment that you're going to hear tonight. Dracula, or Vel the Impaler, let me back up a little more. There's 7 countries, and these 7 countries, they have one thing in common. You have the Carpathian Mountains. Now, the Carpathian Mountains run about 1,000 miles long, maybe 300 high. You have snow on them, and it's very hard to fight a war in there. You know, you can't really get a whole lot of vehicles. Back then you couldn't. And these gypsies travel due to the season. They travel from one end to another end because they're trying to, they'll stay in the valley for a while. They'll let their goats eat. You know, goats eat the roots of grass. So they're constantly on the move, okay? And there's not a whole lot of light in the Carpathian Mountains because by the time the sun comes up, you know, the mountains are kind of tall and the sun only stays up so long and then it goes down. So it's perfect area for a what we would call a vampire. So what I'm saying is that we're Brian's castle, or what we call Count Dracula's castle, is at. It's in Romania. Now, when I was younger, I went over to Romania and they were remodeling the castle. And let me read a couple of things to you here because I made some notes. You're going to need to do a little history tonight. The castle, Brian's castle, is 641 years old. It's built in 1377, and it was built as a fortress. And when it was built, see, there's a lot of gold and silver in the Carpathian Mountains, and so these castles were all at one time garrisons for soldiers. And the king says, look, you can collect, I want you to collect this money and bring it to my fortress where my soldiers are at. Well, that's an equivalent of like saying, Brian's castle is equivalent of like, this is the IRS headquarters, okay? You're going to pay your taxes here. And the soldiers, if they did their time in service, they get to be business owners into the towns. So they're collecting gold and silver, and they're bringing it to this castle. Now, Count Dracula, or Vel the Impaler, as we know him, is basically a warring prince. And this is not long after the Ottoman Empire fell. So you have the English kings, the Church of England trying to, get a foothold into the Carpathians, and they're trying to get a little gold and silver. That's what the Crusades were back in the Middle Ages when they sent Christians down to the Ottoman Empire to fight a 120-year-old war. So anyhow, Vel the Impaler raids Brian's castle. Lord knows what he made off with. And then they had a battle across Romania. And what he would do, he did something very similar to what I've seen what was done in Cambodia when I was over in Cambodia. What he would do, he would burn the crops, burn any storage facility that housed the crops. He would kill the animals, and he would kill the people on the little farms and dump their bodies into wells where people couldn't drink water. He was truly a warrior. And he goes across Romania He crosses over into Hungary with his army, and he burns down damn near half of Hungary, and he gets up towards between Hungary and the Czech Republic. There's a river. The river stops him. He's got to build vessels to cross over the river, and that's his. That was his weak point, because a Hungarian king trapped him next to the river, and he was captured. Okay, so when he's captured, he spent a little time in Hungary at a prison there next to the river, and then he was extradited back to Brian's Castle. Okay, now Brian's Castle is a fortress. It's for the military. So he stayed there for 2 months while his trial was being held, and from there he was found guilty. And then I don't know exactly what happened, because there's a lot of records that have been burned, lost through the years. But he ended up going back to Hungary, where he was in prison for life. Now, what we know is that history doesn't know really what happened to him after that. There's some speculation. They found a church with a crypt in it that had a dragon seal on it. And some researchers opened it up, and they found horse bones in there. And the coffin should have been a human corpse. It had horse bones in there. But the rumor is that the Turks came to the castle, or to the prison, and they cut his head off, and they took his head back to Turkey and threw it into a lake. I believe when he went across Europe, burning and killing everybody, he used to take his victims and put them on poles. Now, it's rumored that Val, the impaler, had a daughter, and his daughter, moved to Naples, Italy. Now, it's been rumored, and there are some documents down in the Vatican. Usually when I would go into the Vatican's library, of course I don't have access to that now. Most of my research, I looked around stuff about Tesla. Some of his patents are stored there. But it seems that I do recall that the Catholic Church wanted to kind of, muscle in on the money here, the gold and silver out of the Carpathian Mountains. So I believe that the Pope hired Val, the impaler, to wage warfare, to make it unstable down there, to get a foothold for the Catholic Church. That's my personal opinion. And I believe that, I don't believe that the Turks found him and cut his head off. I think he made a getaway. Now, probably to Italy. That's my personal belief. I have nothing to make that concrete on. I have to go back and look at the papers in the Vatican, which I don't have access to now. But I want to tell you some things that I found out while I was in Romania. Now, I'm going to read this to you. Let me get my notes here. Okay. In Brian's Castle, they dug a well around 1388 that was 57 meters deep. Now, this well went dry, and there was a Romanian princess that lived in that castle in the 1930s. Queen Marie of Romania. She lived in it in 1930. Up until about 1947, 48, she had to leave the castle because the communists came into power. So from 1947, 48, up until the time that the Berlin Wall was torn down, this castle was closed. Nobody lived in it. Okay, the communists closed it. All right. Now, when the Berlin Wall fell, the West started warming up to the communist countries, and Americans could travel in these communist countries such as Romania. Now, what I did was I couldn't speak Romanian, so when I got to the castle with my other MIB, Men in Black, we had to figure this out. How am I going to get in a castle that's closed? But I knew they were remodeling it. They'd gotten a grant from the World Heritage Fund to fix this castle up. So after sitting on a rock for a couple hours thinking, it was decided that I would be a deaf and dumb mute, and that they don't know if I'm a gypsy or not. And I'm a young man. I hadn't shaved in a couple of days, and roughed up and everything. So they think I'm a gypsy and that I'm a deaf and dumb mute. So I got hired as a common labor. And the only thing you need to do is point towards a couple of boards and put up one or two fingers and motion for me, carry them boards there. So I worked there for about a week and a half or so. Even got paid, I tell you. Got paid to look at them. And I got up in that castle and 57 rooms, and I'm roaming all over the place, and construction work going on with this whale. See, now this whale is going to be dug out. They're going to put an elevator in there, like what you see miners get in, and it goes. They hired miners, and they tunnel down 57 meters, and then they dug out a room down there, and it shoots out the side of the mountain to the Royal Gardens. Okay. Now what happened was they call it. I don't know if you would pull this up, it would help it out a whole lot. It's called the time tunnel elevator. Can you pull that up on your screen? You might come out better going to YouTube and type in time tunnel promo and just keep it on mute and show it in the background. Can you do that, or will it let you do that?
Yeah, James,
Well,
can you do that for
yeah.
us? I'll pull it up.
Yeah. Well, I got the website. Go ahead. I'll look for the YouTube as well.
Look for the YouTube time tunnel promo and cut the sound off. Cut the sound. No, I don't think that's it. Well, that's not the page I want. That's Brian's castle there. Back up. Back up where the little side of the mountain is there. Right there. That's where when we dug down into the castle, we dug down and then we came out. And that's a garden out there, and there's a souvenir shop in there. And but anyway, go to Time Tunnel promo on YouTube, please. Now, there's over 100 architects and construction engineers on it. There's 7,000 hours of work put into the project, 29,000 hours of excavation. There's about 150 concrete trucks that were involved, and 150 sensors, 20 miles of cable, 60 servers, and 80 sound systems. Basically, this is a, you'll see it here, Jessica, what I was doing in there when I was, look the video, watch the video. See, you're in the elevator?
Uh-huh.
That's what I was doing. It's a theme park kind of a deal. So you're going down through the old tunnel, the old water shaft.
Uh-huh.
Keep playing it, James. Don't cut it off. Run it.
I'm trying to get around the copyright.
Oh yeah, we don't want to get a copyright strike. That's right.
Okay. Well, then you need to stop it.
Yeah, okay. Let's stop it.
Well, we'll do little clips here and there.
Oh yeah. Well,
James knows how to do it.
There's bats, digital bats down there. There's ghost dancing in it's basically 3D holograms is what it is. Okay.
Okay.
All right. It's like a theme park. All right, but let me say something here. When I was there, I found a secret passage. Now, MI6, British intelligence, they like a little entertainment. They're masters at disinformation. So I found a secret passage in this castle, and I went into it. It goes down into a modern underground military base. Okay, so we're looking at a secret military base underneath the castle that is modern. Now, you're probably saying, well, what's a military base doing there? See, that's the shaft there to the right on that. Yeah, that right there. That's what I was involved in. What it is, back around 1998, I think, Prince Charles went to Romania, and he ended up buying some property in Romania. It's called the Blue House, and it's about 80 miles away from the castle. Okay, do you follow me there?
Uh-huh.
Now, in that town, there's a medieval church that has bars on its windows. And in this church, it's basically a fortress. Now, why do you need to turn a church into a fortress? Because there's something moving about at night that's not all human. So we have soldiers that have gotten killed fighting vampires, is what it was. So from this church, or from that little town.
Is this it here? This white one?
Get a little close. I need a little.
I
believe it is it, but I think that's it.
Viscri, Romania.
Yeah. Now, if you ever watched the movie The Ninth Gate,
that's very satanic. Yeah.
Where the he's in a bookstore, and he's turned upside down. He's hanging from one leg, and there's a tower. There's some towers in the background, and they're talking about Lucifer hiding the code in 3 books instead of 1. That is eerily similar to that movie, The Ninth Gate. But anyway, I want to go on with the story here. Now, James, you remember back, I want to say it was a about a month or two back, me and you were talking about the Time Travel Institute. The guy that ran it, his name is David. Do you recall his last name? The
Henderson?
time, I believe that's it. He disappeared. He put a bunch of posts online. In fact, you can go to his website, the Time Travel Institute, and then the guy just disappears. All right. Then you had, when me and you talked about Peter Moon, the author Peter Moon, which is Preston Nichols. He helped Peter Moon helped Preston Nichols publishes the Montauk books. Well, Peter Moon, that's not his real name. I don't want to give his real name out on the internet tonight. Peter Moon disappears too. He goes over to Romania. Well, guess what? I just happened to be in the neighborhood, and since I'm so good at remote viewing back then, I found an interest to that underground alien base that we hear about. Now, the alien base is in the Brashady Mountains, which is about 40 miles from Brian's Castle.
And is that the book there, Transylvanian Moonrise?
No, I don't know about that. I'm not really good. I don't know what we're into right there.
The Bogati Mountain facility in Romania.
I haven't read that book, but is that, did Peter Moon write that?
He co-authored it with this Radu Cinemar guy.
All right, but let me tell you about that underground military base. Well, the alien base. It's everything that you've heard about, and it's very true. The tables are very high. And I found a way into it. It's probably been sealed now. But the tunnels lead off in different directions. But what has happened here, back when the Eurotunnel was being dug between England and France, it goes under the English Channel. It's got, cars and rail system. When it opened up, they had a tunneling device. So what has happened here, they've tunneled underneath these mountains from King Charles's Blue House, or the church, all the way underneath Brian's Castle. And they have a complex there for the military. I believe that's there because if a nuclear bomb hits Britain, that's where they're going to run and hide to, while the people of Britain will perish without any protection. And it runs from Brian's Castle back over to the Sphinx, the what we call the Sphinx of Romania, or the alien base, which is 30 miles the other direction. So we have King Charles's property 90 miles away. Then you have Brian's Castle, which is Count Dracula's, and then from there is a straight line to the Sphinx of Romania. So you have to be careful when you're dealing with MI6. They take propaganda like that and they pump it into these UFO groups, and it's just their way of psychological warfare. But that's what was found. And do you have any questions, or are you ready for the questions now?
We don't have a ton of questions here. Let's see. I've started a couple. Someone was asking, was the base MI6? But you just answered that.
It may be co-shared, but it's definitely MI6.
Okay. And the only other question that I can find right off the bat is this one. Let's see if I can pull it up. When was the last vampire attack reported? Do you know, Jimmy?
I can only tell you this now, going back, and I said I'm not a vampire hunter. What I am is MIB. I'm trained to do many things. What I did was when I had captured these vampires in New Orleans, we loaded them up on U-Haul trucks or trucks that had U-Haul labels on them so they wouldn't look suspicious. And we hauled these creatures back to Area 51 for study. Now, I did a time jump. We handcuffed it, the head vampire, put him in handcuffs, and I got in my SS uniform, and I went back to Auschwitz, and I brought him to Joseph Mengele, a much younger Joseph Mengele. And I can tell you now, the vampire was brought to justice. Now, I want to make something very clear. When the camp was deserted, Auschwitz was deserted, you had films showing people behind the fence. War is very tragic, but the ones that could walked out to the next camp because the rail line had been damaged by heavy bombing, Allied bombing, and they couldn't get the food trains through. Okay, so those people were starving, and the Russian army was doing the same thing Val the Impaler was doing. They were raiding the farms, taking the food. There was no food to feed these people. So what happened was the ones that were left behind had HIV. You separate the homosexuals, and they had AIDS. Okay, that's why they're so thin, because they're basically, the march would have killed them. So they were left behind. Now, the people that you saw in the furnaces, those weren't quite all human. What those were the test subjects. They could not be let loose on the general public. And it was the most humane thing to do was to kill these creatures rather than turn them loose on an unsuspected public. We're being colonized, and it's from outer space. And what you're seeing here is these vampires are basically human experiments, probably from this alien base that was discovered in Romania. Okay, so it's very similar. What happened then is what's happening now. It's been 80 years since we had a war. We have people in the Southwest, we don't know who they are. And they're just pouring in, and these reptilians are building back up. And you also have to remember when the Queen of England died, that left a power struggle with these reptilians. And quite frankly, they don't need as many humans on Earth anymore. So a lot of us are going to die in the future. So that's why I'm talking tonight. I'm just kind of briefing you up. I don't expect you to agree with me. You have your views. I can just tell you that I'm patriotic too, but I have family in both countries, and I'm trying to tell their story as honestly as I can. And I want to add one more thing. Hitler made a decision to invade Poland. It was over the fact that they had found 10,000 Polish officers murdered. And Hitler did go and make films of it, showed it to the world. Nobody would listen to the German government. And basically, those were Stalin, well, those were Russians dressed in Germans' uniform that executed those 10,000 Polish soldiers. It's the biggest massacre in Poland's history. And so I can understand why the Polish people are upset, but those were not German soldiers that executed those 10,000 officers. Those were Russian soldiers dressed in Germans' uniform. And those films are propaganda, just like the propaganda film of the SS woman who was murdered or hung prior to the Nuremberg trials. So what you're looking at is 70, 80 years of propaganda.
I have some questions. Can you comment what was the real reason for killing the Jews in the concentration camps? What do you think, Jimmy?
James, I'm going to say this much. When you burn the fields, when you bomb the railways, how would you respond if the interstate highway system is damaged? How would you get food in and out of the cities, James? The people in Charlotte, North Carolina would be starving. So it wasn't deliberately done. Now, you don't see the Germans killing the homosexuals. What you see is the Germans separating homosexuals from the straight men, from the heterosexual men. You see them put them in there. You have to look. I know it looks bad what I'm saying tonight, but I'm trying to tell you is that the British, the royal family are reptilian, and they will go to great lengths to whatever they can to hold on to power. And you right now you have a prince that is on American soil walking around. And you have your elections coming up in 13 months. This is by no mistake, James.
Hey, you guys, let's ask some questions from the audience. How about that? Okay, let's. Jimmy, we have a question here. So, what changes in a person's metabolism or DNA to allow them to digest blood? Do you know?
Who are you asking that question?
I was asking you.
Oh.
What? Do you see the question up on the screen? I can read it again.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, all we know is that a lizard changes colors. We know some octopuses can change their color in the water. We know octopuses can shapeshift. All right. Now, the alien that it came from, I mean, you're looking at a vampire, part human and part something else. You have to find what the missing link before it became part human, okay? We don't have that. All we have is a part human, part alien, okay? It's like, well, why do lightning bugs light up at night? I mean, these are questions that needs to be addressed. Now, there's been no serious research in that other than for the ARCO facility. And right now, those children have all grown up, and I don't even know if they do research like that anymore. So you're asking a question of, a bunch of high school students trying to figure this out, Jessica.
Okay. All right. We have another question from Beth. Do vampires look like humans, Jimmy?
Yes. They're they look pale. They look almost like an albino. Um, their blood is different. They don't have as much hemoglobin in their blood. It might be that when they suck the blood, it goes into the linings of their stomach. It gives them nutrients.
Oops. I didn't mean to pull that up. Sorry, y'all. Well, let me
Little
take
Ray,
that down.
they don't have an anus.
Whoa.
They don't have an anus, or they can't urinate. They
Wow.
can't they can't absorb food like we can. Okay,
Yeah.
so they don't even have sex organs. So, you know, they're grown. Um, they're grown. Okay, so their
Wow.
system is much different from ours. That's the purpose of the autopsies.
That sounds kind of like an extraterrestrial, Jimmy. You know, they say that the Greys don't have sex organs.
Well, let me say this: you have a lot of females complaining that they're abducted and that they're impregnated, and then right before, a few months after they're impregnated, 3 or 4 months later, they're abducted again, and the fetus is taken out of them.
Okay.
So what they do, and this is what I just my personal belief, because when I was when me and Phil Snyder went down into Duce, New Mexico, down into the caverns there, right before Phil was shot by the tall gray. What is going on is they take a fetus, and these aliens inject their DNA into the fetus as it's developing. Now that's so. I'm thinking these fetuses that these aliens we're looking at, they got a little bit of human in them. You know, the insides are different because the alien DNA takes over, but they got a blank. You know, they don't really need a sex. The little child is still forming at about 3 months old. I don't even think it's formed the sex yet.
Wow. Okay. Okay, let's see. Okay, so we have another question, Jimmy. Do vampires have power like telekinesis, ability to fly, shapeshift, and occupy seats in power? Wow, interesting.
They can't fly. They can leap. Their reflexes are about 3 times faster than you can move. Imagine the fastest runner. All right, imagine Jesse Owens running the 1936 Olympics. Imagine someone running 3 times faster than him, or jumps 3 times higher than him. Now, back to telekinesis. I do know they can remote view. All right, if they get close enough, they possibly can read your minds. I do know they can remote view, that they can communicate by thought. They don't have to talk. They can communicate by thought. Shape shifting, that's when, like when I blew the whistle, he or she can blend in with whatever wallpaper there is on the background. Just able to change the color of their skin, or that like of a leaf or a brick wall. As far as powers are concerned, uh, the Queen of England certainly proved that, because she is not all human. Her DNA is all messed up.
Wow. Okay, wow. Okay, so James actually has some more questions, you guys. James, you have some questions, and it regards the Holocaust. And vampire transformation. So
Thank you.
go
All
ahead
right.
and ask some questions. I saw my computer's lagging over here, so I couldn't write you back.
Yeah. So, Jimmy, thank you for commenting about that. So, going more into the Holocaust, can you comment what happened when some of these the Jews were being, I guess I'm gonna say, starved out, or they were starving? The transformation. What happened?
Well, this is what I've been able to find out, because Captain Mengele had PTSD. He didn't really talk when you're in battle. You seem not to talk. It took a long time for him to get information out. It was just a little here and a little there through the years. But what was your, repeat your question one more time?
So, describe the transformation that some of these people when they were starving.
Okay. Well, what they found was when they would put one of these deaf mutes, say you have a deaf mute female, they put them in the barracks with other women, and what would happen? You have a young mother. So the Germans did not want, if you had a fresh baby, they did not separate you from your child. What they would do, they let the mother stay in the barracks, and all the other women, kind of look after the young mother. But what was happening was these mutes would try to grab the baby from the young mother, and these women would just jump on that mute and beat the hell out of her and kick her out of the barracks. So what Irma Grease would do, the warden, the SS warden, they would look at them again. Sometimes at first they didn't make them undress, and they started examining them. That's when they started noticing the deformities in them. But see, what gave them away was this: if they didn't get blood, their eyes would change like that of a cat, and they would start to waste away very quickly. But there was a total of about over 1,500 true shapeshifters. There was 1,500 they knew. They could tell, and this is how they tell the difference. We have our different blood groups, A, B, C, and O, and such forth. We have our different blood groups, okay? What gave them away was their blood, because their blood was that of an octopus, okay? So, but what they were finding was you could have some people that would only have one webbed foot. Well, they weren't really sure about those. And so what they did was, they took the ones they wasn't so sure of and they put them in other barracks. So there was about 5,000, correction, there was around about 6,000 to 6,500 that were suspected. They may have one webbed foot or one webbed hand or maybe one split eye. And they had human blood. And then they had the other group, the other 1,500 or so, that had all webbed hands and webbed feet, like that. Those are the bodies that were burned, the ones that were unsure of. The ones that weren't suspected was not touched. They were either evacuated to another camp, or the ones that were left behind was HIV positive. Now, I want to say this. A lot of people don't know this. Now, the International Red Cross And this is very concerning because if you ever end up in a FEMA camp, James or Jessica, you need to know this. The International Red Cross, it doesn't matter if you're German, English, American, New Zealand, whatever. If you see a white truck with a cross on it, or a white ship with lights on it and a cross, it's a Red Cross organization. Now, the Red Cross at the beginning of the war was going to Auschwitz and bringing care packages, and they were allowed in. But what happened was during the war, certain areas of the ports were mined. And when they got to fighting, you have casualties. Only one Allied ship hit a mine, hospital ship, hit a mine and sunk in World War II. Only one. And they were told that the area was mined. It may have been a navigational area. But all the ships, it doesn't matter if it's German, Japanese, English, American, New Zealand, they have to send out a signal once every half hour, and they have to light the ships up with light bulbs. And they don't run these ships dark. You can see them for miles off. What happened was the Allies sunk 7 hospital ships that belong, 6 hospital ships that belong to the Axis. So 6 Axis ships were sunk deliberately, and only 1 Allied ship was sunk by mine. So before you point your finger and say, look what you've done, the Germans had every right to kick out the International Red Cross. They were just all talk and no action. Okay. So if you get into a FEMA camp in the future and you see, just cause you see an International Red Cross out front, you better not count on them. They are just an ineffective. I hate to say that. But you need to know this if you end up in a FEMA camp. And Americans will be rounded up possibly sometime around, but when this Civil War breaks out in the United States, you can bet you're going to be rounded up, and you're going to be dealt with just like what happened. Go ahead.
Wow.
Jessica, can I ask more questions, or you want to?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I want to go more into go back to Vlad the Impaler in this underground base below Braun Castle. So, do you think that facility existed during the time of Vlad the Impaler? And do you think Vlad the Impaler is still alive?
The base is modern. Okay, this base was dug out during the the British used this time tunnel, this tourist thing, as a diversion tunnel. That's how I caught them. Now, as far as Val the Impaler being alive, I don't know how long vampires live, James. I don't know. Now, we know that the Queen of England died. I hope she died. If she didn't, she's gotten into another body. I would think that Val the Impaler, that the prince is probably a hybrid. He's probably not full-blooded. So I would have, I believe he's dead. I believe he's dead. That's just my personal opinion. Then again, nobody does the research that we did at the ARCO facility. on vampires. There are such things as werewolves. Werewolves are not a problem. A werewolf can be just like you, Jessica. They do shapeshift. They have spiritual issues, but they are they're not made out to be the monsters you think they are. I've known I've known werewolves. I've talked to them all the time. They have problems, and and the information you find in the libraries, take care of all the information you have in the library, just throw it in a dumpster, burn the books. We have to rewrite history, Go
So
ahead.
can you tell us where vampires originated from, if you have that information?
I believe that they came from the base 30 miles to the east of Brian's Castle. I believe that. I believe we're looking at some type of genetic tinkering. Now, if you go to the pyramids in Egypt, you go in there and you see part human and part animal pictures on the wall. Humans with dog heads, humans with beak heads. This is genetic tinkering, and it's probably trying to get used to our atmosphere. It's trying to adapt to a human form. So I believe the vampires from Carpathian Mountains, that there's some type of genetic experiment. I do know that the werewolves are basically ordinary humans that have a little bit of alien DNA in them. They probably they're unaware of it. You have a lot of MK Ultra guys running around, and they're shape shifting. They don't understand why they're shape shifting. I believe it's because humans cannot travel outside the Van Allen radiation belt. But if you take a human, you splice them with, say, a werewolf, they can take the radiation. So this is definitely alien tinkering with the DNA. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we haven't. Yeah, James, this is your question. You're asking, do all vampires drink human blood, or can they consume animal blood and be good with that, Jimmy?
When I was at at Nevada, at Frenchman Flats, we had a vampire that came into he came into Las Vegas. At first, nobody knew was there. They started finding animals draining their blood, and so what he was doing, he was killing dogs and draining their blood. And the Las Vegas Police Department, we have people on there that recognizes this. And so they gave us a call at the base, and we went out and we eventually found it. That vampire did kill a couple of tourists. And so they can, to answer your questions, yes, they can drink animal blood, but they rather prefer human blood. But yeah, they'll do that.
Okay. I have a lot of people in the chat are asking about something that I was trying to skirt around tonight, because I didn't really want to. I know YouTube is really weird about some of these topics, but what about the adrenochrome? Okay. Jimmy, are the vampires going for the adrenochrome? Because I know some of the cryptids, when I remote view the attacks on humans, they're going for the adrenochrome.
You're right on. You couldn't hit the nail any better than that. It's all about the adrenochrome.
Okay.
Everything ties the Queen of England, all of them. I've always thought that Jack the Ripper was a shapeshifter. The amount how he killed. So adrenochrome is exactly, you're right on with it.
So
Okay.
Jessica, you should remote view Jack the Ripper.
I've been asked to remote view that. I mean, I don't like looking into gory stuff like that if I don't have to. So, but that would be an interesting one. Yeah, we could put it in the pile. But
Well,
yeah.
Jack the Ripper. Now let me tell you a little short thing on him because I want to keep on with the vampire stuff. But
Okay.
a few years back, I say around 1960 or so, south of Las Vegas, when they were developing an old military to England, bought the London Bridge, and they numbered it and brought it back stone by stone, and then they dug a trench and filled it with water, and it goes over into a little island, a little man-made island. But a lot of people don't know this, but there was a guy, he was on YouTube a while back. His name was Reynolds, and he was a satanic. He had survived satanic rituals, And I'm not saying he's akin to the Reynolds Rap, the aluminum foil people, but the name is very familiar, Reynolds, and only people that could afford the property in that little island there were very rich people. And when they opened up that neighborhood, they brought the London mayor over to dedicate the bridge and to dedicate the new, I think it was something like about 300 acres of property with homes on it. But you had to know somebody, you had to be somehow tied in with the English. And when I was at Nellis, the British soldiers would disappear. It took me a while to figure out what was going on, but they were going down to that little community because the little community is built like cobble streets, just like England is. But the highest rate of missing children, if your child comes up missing or sex exploited, more what happens is these rich people, they have a child kidnapped for ritual killings, stiff films, snuff films, excuse me.
Yeah.
That's where they're going to down there. We really do need to get these British off American soil. We need to get this prince off, and this is and get them out off American soil because that's why they're over here. Go ahead.
Oh no, we're good. We're good. Go ahead, Jimmy. Did you want another question? Because we have more.
Go ahead. Just
Okay.
ask. I'll ask anybody's question. If I feel uncomfortable, then I'll say move on to the next one. But I'll try.
Well, these are easy ones because James had asked earlier in the chat, can vampires turn into a bat? And we had other people ask that too. No?
No. Now, there are such thing as vampire bats. They're alien, and their mouth is a little different. Their mouth is more round. And they can blend in just like a vampire does. It's hard to see them.
Okay, I have pictures of this this is like the picture that I put on for the thumbnail for our artwork for the show, and he has a mouth very much like a bat with like the teeth in the front. And Jimmy and James, I wanted to show you guys this one picture. This is a sketch of the This is the vampire of Mineral Point, Wisconsin. Okay. And this is a sketch. This was seen back, I think it was the 1980s. I don't remember exactly, but I had remote viewed this a long time ago. And this thing looks very much like I'm going to say like an alien. Okay. And so it just backs up the fact, I mean, it looks like a vampire and an alien, like a gray or some sort of ET, almost aquatic like, with it almost looks like it could have web fingers or web feet. I mean, it looks very much like what you've been describing, Jimmy.
No, mine looks more human.
That one's more human. Okay.
More human. Now, the what sets them apart is one of them, and you can feel evil. If you can remote view, then this is kind of hard for me to explain this, because most people are thinking about emotions. I'm not talking about emotions here. I'm talking about remote viewing something. Because you get into the mind of the creature, and there's just a void there. It looks at you like prey. The whole time that vampire at Frenchman Flats had his finger took off, they didn't give him any kind of type of painkillers. He never made one sound when his finger was being amputated.
Ew.
With no emotions, just steadily looking like your dinner to him.
Oh gosh, that's scary. Yeah, I don't want to encounter that ever. I don't. I'm out there chasing cryptids in the woods. I don't need a vampire human coming at me too. But yeah, I mean, how prominent, or like, I mean, how often or how many vampires are there, Jimmy? Are they everywhere? Are they in every city? I mean, are they everywhere that we go? I mean, is it common to have a vampire in every city or every large city?
No, to be honest with you, I'm not a vampire hunter. I'm just MIB. Okay, my specialty is propulsion systems. I'm just cross trained. I can tell you, if you refer back to my first lecture, those three cities that they were seen in: Mobile, Biloxi, and then New Orleans. Those three coastal cities.
Wow.
Now, as of late, New Orleans comes in, because you have to remember, New Orleans is like a nightlight. I mean, it's a nighttime city, and there's people from all around the world that goes there. You have a lot of missing people also. So those are things that I do believe the younger vampires, they probably are using the underground system. They like dark places to hang out, during the day.
Oh, yeah.
Are their teeth hollow so they can suck blood, similar to the chupacabra?
James, I did not examine his mouth. His fangs were a little long, like that of a dog. But some people's mouths kind of lay over a little bit, like an older person's. You know how like an older person's lips will sink downward. But until you pulled his lips up, that's when you saw the teeth, or that's when I describe the teeth as canine, but that's the best way I can describe it.
Okay, Jimmy, do vampires prefer big cities rather than rural areas? You kind of answered that a little bit there.
Well, I think they need each other. They know they're different, and so they try to be in a community together. They also hunt in packs. Okay.
Okay.
New Orleans is certainly large, and it's mostly unlit in a lot of areas, a lot of trees. it's not as open. There's not as many trees in Las Vegas or shrubs in Las Vegas. So I would think that you have trees and they can come out at night. They just prefer not to be out in the sun. So if they're in New Orleans, they're probably there for probably come out at night, I would think.
Okay. Is there a certain trait to look for to know if someone is a vampire?
Probably being a mute, not talking, just the staring. You have to remember he may or she may look human. They'll look frail, like they've been ill. Their skin is like it doesn't have the pinkness to it. Okay. And they'll wear clothes slightly out of style, like, and I presume that they don't work because I don't think they could work. So they're probably, like I said, it's just old clothes, 30, the clothes would be out of date is what I'm trying to say. No watches, no jewelry, just, the females have no makeup on.
Okay. So there are, in movies, of course, they're romanticized and they're very sexy, right? But in real life, vampires, are they attractive? Kirby is in our chat. Asks he says vampires aren't attractive and they smell bad. Do they stink, Jimmy?
Well, I can tell you about gypsies. Gypsies have they suffer from facial rot. There's a disease that goes around. Gypsies get it a lot. It's like a flesh-eating disease. Now, I would think my personal view is that they probably don't socialize like humans do. You're used to taking a bath or a shower once a day, combing your hair, trying to put on your best lipstick. You pay attention to your clothes and your jewelry. This seems to be lacking. It's kind of like, well, this is me, and it's like a void of customs. Yeah, there's clothes on. He may have a white shirt and black pants, but it's just clothes that they find and they put on.
Okay.
To try to blend in. There's no style to it.
Okay. James has got some jokes tonight. James says, "Why does Dracula like to travel with his coffin?" Why is that, James?
Because his life is at stake. All right. Here's
like
another one. Why couldn't Dracula's wife get any sleep?
Why?
I don't know.
Because of his coughing. Coughing.
Coffin. Oh, I like that one. That's good.
How many vampires does it take to screw in a light bulb?
Oh, I know that. 7. I got you on that one now.
It depends if you count Dracula.
Well, 7 royal Draculas, like the royal family there.
Dracos. Okay. Jimmy, do vampires ever show emotions of joy, such as smiling or laughing?
Yeah, good question.
Is that a joke or is that a question?
That's actually a question, but maybe you can turn it into a joke. Turn it if you can. I don't know.
I haven't got I like your jokes, but I can't tell jokes.
So do they ever show signs of smiling or laughing?
Probably when they go to vote.
Okay.
Uh,
Jimmy, did you talk about Mercy Brown, 1892 yet?
Tell me about Mercy Brown. Fill me in. I'm a
do you
little
want me
bit
to do
rusty.
it?
Yeah, fill
Yeah.
me in.
I'll do it. Okay, so Mercy Brown may rival Count Dracula as the most notorious vampire. Unlike Dracula, she was a real person. She lived in Exeter, Rhode Island, and was the daughter of George Brown, a farmer. After George lost many family members, including Mercy, in the late 1800s to TB, tuberculosis, his community used Mercy as a scapegoat to explain their deaths. It was common at the time to blame several deaths on one family on the undead. The bodies of each dead family member were often exhumed in search for signs of vampirism. When Mercy's body was exhumed and didn't display severe decay, not surprising since her body was placed in an above ground vault during a New England winter, the townspeople accused her of being a vampire and making her family sick from her icy grave. They cut out her heart, they burned it, then fed the ashes to her sick brother. Perhaps not surprisingly, he died shortly after. That's what I know of Mercy Brown. I did just a tiny bit of research on it, and that's what I found. Do you know anything extra, James? Anything? No, Jimmy, what do you know about Mercy? Are you familiar?
Yeah, it did stir a little. Okay, let me back up here. When James was getting his attacks, which he's still getting, um, I looked at it. Okay, well now, Camp Hero. A lot of people don't know this, but uh, all in that area, they've had Massachusetts, Connecticut. They've had vampires. Okay, alleged strange things going on. Yeah, I've heard the story of Mercy Brown. Um, I really don't know. Oh, okay, now let me back up. Do you do, have you ever seen the movie Dark Shadows, the new movie?
Yes. Yes.
Are you
Yeah.
there?
Yeah.
I want to share my screen. Yeah, about this is Queen Elizabeth's coffin. So you were talking about
Yeah.
how she's not human.
Well, she has 8 pallbearers instead of 6. Look how long that coffin is. And you notice it doesn't have their country flag on it. It shows a dragon flag.
Ooh, dragons. Interesting.
It doesn't show the British flag. It shows the dragons. And those men, I bet that woman doesn't weigh 90 pounds if she's wet. But look how they're holding it. Okay. Um, Now let's get back to what the question about the vampire before I lose my thought. There's a place called Westport. I believe it's in Westport, Connecticut. I'll have to relook there. And there was a family called Collins that lived there. Now, so the Collins family has been accused, I believe, back years ago of being vampires, but the movie is based off of that. I have not investigated it, but that's not that far from of Camp Hero. If you drew a straight line to Westport, Connecticut, or Westport, Massachusetts, I forgot which state it's in there. I would have to relook and refamiliarize myself.
Well, you can go visit Martha Stewart over there in Westport. But
Is that where she stays at?
she has an estate over there.
Ooh,
Yeah.
It's called Turkey Hill Farmstead.
Oh,
Yeah. Anyway.
cool. Hey, okay, so Jimmy, did you notice at the Queen's funeral there was we're talking about a video what looked like a grim reaper kind of walking through the background during her funeral. Are you familiar with that? Do you know what that was about?
No, this is the first I heard of it, but I'm not surprised. Some of these reptilians have cloaking devices. It's possibly that some electronics in the so many electronics were in the area, anywhere from cameras to cell phones to recording equipment. It's possible some type of interference occurred or glitch.
Turn on the screen share.
Wow.
I got it.
All right, gotcha. Sorry.
Yeah,
there
that one.
it is. That's it. That's the Grim Reaper, allegedly. This is all allegedly, right?
Well, they have strange. They practice strange rituals. The royal family does. I think that's the priest we're looking at there. That's a priest. Now, maybe on somebody else's camera, it looked like a reaper, but I think that's the priest. You probably have somebody slicing a video and then sending the picture to you, trying to confuse you. But that's a priest there.
Yeah, I kind of got that,
like
that
us
feeling too. But
when people send you a video, sometimes they'll do stuff like that to trick you up. But no, that's a priest there.
You want to comment about this one?
Where is
the
that?
Night of Evans City, the Night of Living Dead grave marker at the Evans City Cemetery.
Yeah, well, the cemetery, when you see Barbara or the actress Barbara, that's the Cole headstone she's leaning on. Oh, let me tell you the true story about Barbara. This is a bizarre story, and I swear it's true. I know you heard some strange things tonight. You're going to hear one even stranger.
Just a little bit strange. Just a little bit.
A little bit stranger. But
okay.
What happened was, then, all right, let me read the plot to you right quick, okay? I'm going to refresh you before I get into the story. Give me one moment. Just one moment.
Do we need to do a whole new episode on this, maybe?
No, I'm going to be, it's not that long. Let me just get I need to read the movie plot to you so you'll.
Okay, while you're looking that up, Kirby, yes, I do reply to emails. It may take me a minute, but I do reply. So send me your encounter. Okay. I would love to hear it. Yeah, thank you.
And this is the Sphinx in Romania that Jimmy was talking about earlier. So I guess the tunnels run under to the Baghechi Mountain facility all the way to Egypt and probably goes all over the world. But
wow, so interesting.
So if it's the same age as the Sphinx in Egypt, then it would make sense because rain is eroding it, so it would erode faster here, obviously, than in the desert region. But
that's really cool.
And this over here is the ARCO facility. So I found this. I was trying to look up Kathy O'Brien, the Transformation America, Kathy O'Brien's book, but this one says here that ARCO, which stands for Atlantic Richfield Company. So this is based in it's a facility in Monica, Pennsylvania. Which
hold on a second, James. James, slow down.
Just a second. You want to comment about this too? Okay. Yeah.
Let me have time to read what she writes because this company's name changes all the time.
Okay.
It changes.
ARCO.
Give me a moment.
Okay.
I'm reading
now.
Okay. I'm gonna pull up a couple of comments while you're reading that, Jimmy. Let's see. John Cunningham, hello. Thank you for being here. Says, I think Harry isn't a Draco. Apparently his mother Diana had an affair on Prince Charles with one of his friends, and Harry has nothing to do with him at all. I don't know. That's interesting. There's so much conspiracy behind all this, right? But yeah. Nothing is as it seems or as we've been told. I do agree with that statement right there.
James, won't you do me a favor?
It's the
Highlight
second
that.
page. It's the second page. Yeah. Well, I can't highlight it. It's a JPEG, so it's not text. It's an image.
Okay.
But
Well,
if you want to, I can zoom in. Would you want me to do that?
no, I need it for my records. But this company
Okay.
changes names a lot. But let's set that aside for just a moment here, okay?
Okay.
Because when you're trying to get funding, it changes all the time. The ARCO name. All right, I'm going to read the plot to you of the 1967 plot of the Living Dead. Siblings Barbara and Johnny drive to the cemetery in rural Pennsylvania to visit their father's grave, where a pale man in a tattered suit kills Johnny and attacks Barbara. She flees to a nearby farmhouse but finds the resident's corpse laying half-eaten on the stairs. A growing horde of ghouls soon surround the house as a stranger, Ben, arrives and initially mistakes Barbara for the homeowner. After driving back several ghouls, he boards the windows and doors. While searching the home for supplies, he locates a lever-action rifle. A nearby Barbara, she's comatose. Barbara, surprised to find people already taking shelter in the home cellar. Harry, his wife Helen, and their young daughter Karen flee after there are a group of the same monsters overturning their car and bit Karen on the arm, leaving her seriously ill. A couple, Tom and Judy, took shelter after hearing an emergency broadcast about the series of brutal killings. Tom and Ben secure the farmhouse while Harry protects that it is unsafe above ground before returning to cellar. Ghouls continue to besiege the farmhouse for increasing numbers. The refugees take to radio and television reports an army of cannibalistic reanimated corpses committing mass murder across the east coast of the United States. Posse of armed men controlling countryside kill the living dead. Again, the reports that the heavy blow to the head kills the ghouls. The various rescue centers and safeties, and scientists theorize that radiation, we will talk about radiation, and exploding space probe returns from Venus. I'll explain that. Ben devised a plan to obtain medical supplies for Karen and transport the group to a rescue center by refueling his truck. Karen dies of her injuries. The ghouls eat her remains. In the morning, the armed posse arrives to dispatch remaining ghouls. Awakened by the gunfire and sirens, Ben emerges from the cellar, but they shoot him in the head, mistaken for a ghoul. His body is thrown onto a bonfire, burned. Rest of ghouls. Okay, I had to refresh myself with the plot. Now I'm going to tell you what happened.
Wow.
Now, when I was probably about, I don't know, 12 years old, maybe 13. Hell, I might have been 14. Between 12 to 14 years old. I was coming back from Camp Hero, so we took a detour down to Evans, and when I was down there, we got a report. It's going to be a big experiment to hurry up. So the MIB I was with was a few years older. I was pretty young, So we got there just as the sun was starting to get kind of low in the sky. And we walked into the ARCO facility. And of course, they always let something out dead because when you smell something dead, you don't want to hang around a place very long. It drives visitors away. That's another reason we didn't get too many visitors. But when we went in the lab there, they said you just missed it. The patient is outside, or he didn't say patient. The test subject is outside. That's how they said it. Test subject's outside. So the intelligence officer I was with, he said, "Look, we need to show you something." And so he handed the guy that was talking to my intelligence officer, said he reaches up and he hands me the chart, the medical chart, and hands it to me. He said, "Why don't you go outside through the door here, uh, and tell me how the test subject's doing while I'm, briefing your intelligence officer what's going on." I said, "Sure." So there's a trap door that's got a rope on it, and they raised it up, to let an animal out. So I walked on out into the back of the facility. It's about, I would say, a good 4 acres of land back there, maybe more, that's fenced in with electric fence and barbed wire on it. God, it stunk that day. And there's a backhoe back there, they buried some of the animals. But anyway, it was just real hot, The air conditioning, the car that I was in, it just gave out earlier. So, it's like 100 degrees outside. And so I needed to get out of the sun where I could cool off and where I can get out of the sunlight and read this, this sheet, this medical report on the test subject. So I looked around. I didn't see the test subject. I thought it was an animal at first. I said, "Well, heck," to myself. I said, "I bet the animal's down in that ravine there. There's a bunch of trees that hasn't been cut on the property. So I'm just gonna go ahead and walk over these trees and try to find the animal." And so I walked on into the little wooded area. Didn't see anything, but I was smelling that smell. So I sat down on a log and opened up the medical report, and I'm reading the medical report, and a few minutes passes by, and I see this old black man, and he is taking baby steps, just one little foot ahead of the other little foot. And I estimate him to be in his late 60s, early 70s. And so first time he passed by, I kind of looked up at him, James. Jessica, I looked up at him and looked back down. And, he walked past me by about a half football field. And I go into reading the report, and then sure enough, a few minutes later, 30 minutes later, he comes back and he walks up to me, and I stand up, I start talking to him. And he tells me, he says, his eyes are closed. He can't open his eyes up because the sun hurts his eyes. And he's telling me, he says, "I'm looking for my car keys. Can you help me find my car keys?" And And I said, well, what do you need your car keys, And he says, well, I wasn't feeling too good. And my niece took me to the VA hospital and left me there. But he wanted to get his car and drive home. He needed his keys to get his car and drive home. He said, I don't even think I can drive home. Can you drive me to my home? I said, well, where do you live? And he told me, and it was it was in Pittsburgh, but it's several miles off, a good little ways off from the VA hospital in Pittsburgh. And I said, his name was Ben. And he said, I said to him, I said, well, I can't take you home, Ben. And he said, well, why can't you take me home? He's about to cry, he's real serious. And I said, well, Ben, would you raise your hand up and touch your face? And he raises, his hand up, and he touched his face. And I said, do you feel, do you know why I made you reach your hand up? He said, yes. And he said, I was scared too. And I said, Ben, you're rotting. And see, his face had, he had died. What had happened, this was in his charts, okay? He worked in construction. He was born in 1897, and he was too young. He joined after World War I, but he was too old for World War II, so he served in peacetime. But what he did, he was in construction work. He did masonry work, foundations, bricks. He was a master mason. But what had happened was he had gotten sick, he had gotten ill, he had heart trouble, and his family took him to the VA hospital in Pittsburgh. And there he died. Now, I told Ben, I said, Ben, it says here in your chart that you donated your body to science. See, his niece his family was trying to keep him alive. So to try to save his life, they told the VA doctors, they said, do whatever you got to do experimental, try to save Ben. Oh. And Ben, they couldn't save him. He died of heart failure. And he had been dead for about 8 days maybe. And he had started to rot. So what happened was, when Ben died, they took his body from the VA hospital. They brought it to the ARCO facility. Now, getting to the plot of Night of the Living Dead. Now, those are the technicians from the ARCO facility. Mr. Cooper is Army. Mr. Cooper, who is in the movie, is an Army officer. And Mrs. Helen, and Helen is his wife. And in real life, Helen is a bitch. Nobody likes Helen at the ARCO facility. But Harry is an Army intelligence officer. And Judy is a technician. And the other young man, the boyfriend, is also a lab technician. And Karen, the little girl that's been bit on the arm, they had had a wreck up on the highway about 4 days earlier, and there was a mother and the father and the daughter, all three were killed in the wreck. Karen's mother and father was so badly mangled in the wreck, the bodies were considered unsalvageable. So Karen, the little girl that was in the basement, is a test subject as well. She's about 10 years old. Now, in the movie Night of the Living Dead, it talks about an Army officer is walking out, and there's a reporter talking about a space probe coming back from Venus that's exploded or has crash landed with high doses of radiation. Now, what happened is, the real story is, the man that picked Ben's body up is Undertaker. Now, this is true about the Undertaker. The Undertaker, everybody liked the Undertaker because the men in black, they were getting free liquor, they were getting tickets to the ball games. But the Undertaker had a problem. He couldn't get a date. See, when women find out that you're an Undertaker, they don't want to date you. So the men in black, trying to help out the Undertaker, says, well, we're gonna try and fix him up with somebody. So it just happens that the Arco facility, when Captain Mengele left, they turned it over to a much younger group of men in black, and the men in black like to do a little partying, you see, even though it's down at a morgue. And so they're running up a bill, thousands of dollars, like they're buying T-bone steaks for the men in black. We're getting new suits, we're getting new black sunglasses, and we're getting patent leather shoes from Italy. We're not getting anything cheap. We're getting ball tickets, and we're just having a time of our lives. Well, the CIA gets a little suspicious. So, they're used to Mengele doing the books, and Mengele's gone, and so they start to say, we're going to send a an accountant down to audit y'all, and we better not find nothing missing or y'all in trouble, So it kind of freaked the men out in black, how in the hell we're going to come up with some money? We done spent it partying with the Undertaker done blowed all the money on us. How in the hell we're going to get out of this mess? So the auditor comes down, and the auditor has his father is buried in the cemetery, and the auditor has a sister named Barbara. So those two come down, and they're starting, like I said, the auditor is investigating money coming up from it's coming up missing. So what the men in black do, they say, we're going to fix Barbara up with the Undertaker. That way Johnny, the auditor, is not going to turn us in. So what the Undertaker does, he gets the zombies and he sends them around to the farmhouse, and Barbara sees it, and what they want is for Barbara to run into the arms of the Undertaker and be saved. That's the real story. But what has happened is Mr. Cooper, the intelligence officer, and his wife, with Karen, the little dead girl, they're down in the basement. See, they're part of the show here. And and Ben, Barbara's comatose, but she doesn't realize that Ben, the black man in the house, is also dead. The Undertaker, can make you look pretty good at a funeral. You know, he can fix you up where you don't even know you've been in a wreck or you're dead or whatever. So Ben has makeup on, and so when you look at the movie, you know, it's being told through the eyes of Barbara, who is comatose. She's in shock. She doesn't know there's a dead man walking around. She doesn't know there's an Army intelligence officer down in the basement, and that the ghouls outside are actually friends of the Undertaker, you know, trying to scare her. But in the end, it all ends well. Um, the Undertaker does marry Barbara in real life. She's committed, you know, she gets committed to a sanitarium. And so the Undertaker goes to the sanitarium and, you know, he weds her and takes her for a bride. So it did end with the Undertaker getting Barbara. But that's the true story of the undead. And I know I was there. It happened right around 1967, right around December, right during the holidays when this happened. And the reason they made the movie was, well, we had to figure out a way to pay back the CIA because, you know, they're ready to lock us all up. So we sold the rights to a movie producer. He makes the movie, we get our money, we pay back the CIA, and we're off the hook.
Wow.
But we gave all of our old clothes and our old sunglasses to the deceased. We all got new clothes, and you know, Ben, before we put him in the freezer at night, you know, we give him whiskey, you know, calm his nerves, and we did find him a female zombie to give him some company. He couldn't go back home. You know, how would you like it if your deceased husband shows up, Jessica? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
I mean, we had to do something, you know.
That would be a conundrum, Jimmy. I would be so confused, actually. So, yeah.
Well,
You can't go home.
you can't go home.
You
So
got to
we
go
had
in the freezer, buddy. Yeah.
go in the freezer. But we had National Geographic books that Mingla liked. Of course, Mingla had a habit of cutting out the best pages along with the newspapers for coupons, and we would give Ben all the National Geographic books to read, and we had to give him some specially eye drops because, see, when you're dead, you don't produce water for your eyes, and and whatever your health problems are, we were never able to regenerate Ben. So that part of the experiment failed. But as long as we keep him cool and, you know, give him whiskey and some National Geographics, a good pair of Men in Black sunglasses, even though they were beat up, and some eye drops, he's ready to go.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so zombies like whiskey, huh? That's wild.
Yes, it calms
Yeah.
their nerves. It calms their
Okay.
nerves. And
Okay.
and he wants to go to I think the name of the little town is Beaufort. There's no little town named Beaufort. Beaufort is a classified destination. I cannot tell you that. But in the movie, it says he needs to get to Beaufort, and
There's a
that's
Beaufort in South Carolina. We
well,
got Beauforts, but it's not the Beaufort that they're
this
referring to.
this site's probably still active. So,
Okay.
but that's the true story of Night of the Living Dead. And yes, zombies do have feelings, Jessica. And look, let me tell you something I found out about zombies.
Okay.
When you die, and this is very important, I really want y'all to remember this. But when you die and you're laying in your coffin, whatever you have to say to your deceased loved one, you need to say it while you're at the side of the coffin. Because when you close that lid, it's muffled. And guess what, Jessica? They can hear you.
Really?
They can hear you even though they're dead. And I want to say something else. They can feel themselves rot. Now, that's why all of the German scientists wanted cremation.
Oh, wow. Do you suggest that we all get cremated, Jimmy,
Well,
because of that?
I'm telling you what Ben told me. He could feel himself rot, and it's psychological. That's why we gave him whiskey, and we gave him cigars, and we even found him a female zombie. But the experiment was, could we reanimate the dead cells? Now, if you're freshly dead, um, you know, it goes back with the brain. It has to be a real sudden death, and you had to get very cold, like in a cold area. You could probably, bring them on back with little to no damage, but it goes back that whatever injury you have, um, it has to heal itself. Now, Ben never had a heartbeat. What it was, some of the equipment that we had at Camp Hero, we could pulse electricity through his body, just like you would take a 9-volt battery and touch a frog. Even though that frog is dead, he's electrical. You can make his muscles twitch. And, if you cut the head of a snake off, the snake can live for 2 hours with his head cut off because he's an electrical being. We all are electrical beings.
Wow. That is so
How
very
how long
interesting.
does it? Yeah, how long does the soul stay around the body, or the zombie stay alive?
Rephrase your question, but be a little more specific.
How long does the zombie stay alive before it deteriorates? And yeah,
Well, if you keep them cool. Now, I've met German SS officers from World War II that were still walking around in the snow with their uniforms, even though they were tattered. And if you ever watched the movie Dead Snow, where it's kind of a comedy show in a way. Can you pull that up? Not the movie, but just a picture of it. Dead Snow. I'm just making sure we're at that right area.
okay,
All
that
right.
one here. Is that it?
Yeah, yeah. I've I've met him before. Well, not the actor playing him, but that's a colonel there. I've met the colonel. Um, the show is mostly not accurate, but yes, they do lay in the snow, and they're very proud of their country. They were killed in combat in cold weather. Uh, so we're able to reanimate our soldiers
Yeah, but how long do they stay in this condition?
as long as it's cold, James.
But I mean, like humans, we need calories to sustain ourselves. So just sending electrifying
They
these.
don't need it, James. They don't need. You're dead. Okay, you have no heartbeat. It takes a while to break the rigor mortis out. Um,
Yeah,
Now, another movie that is very important is Outpost. You see, I think that movie was made in 2008. Outpost, 2008 Outpost. There's been a couple of them. All right, that movie is almost I mean, it's pretty accurate. It's not totally accurate, but it's pretty accurate. Outpost, I've been down in that bunker. Um, and also the 2000. Let me look at it here. The 1984 movie, Return of the Living Dead. 2009, Return of the Living Dead. Uh, the unneed medical supply warehouse where they have the split dogs. Um, that is Mengele's warehouse. I don't think that's it.
So
2009.
so you think Mangala is still in some kind that the body of Mangala is still operational to this day as a zombie?
Mengele did not die on the beach. Uh, he did not die on the beach. What happened was Rolf, excuse me, his son had only met him twice. He met him in 1956, and then in 1977, I believe, if I remember right, he went down to Paraguay, right, real near the Brazil border, and he
To
met him.
Argentina.
Or, no,
Argentina?
no, he went down. He was in Paraguay.
Okay. So
Isn't Paraguay in South America? I think that's his house there.
and eventually he
That house
sm-
to the left, that house there, I think it's been torn down now.
okay, eventually didn't he come to
I've
the
been to that
United
house.
States?
I've been to that house there. The one in
But why?
that one right there. You had your. I've been there. Yeah.
Why did you go there, Jimmy?
Because um, that's where we always is. I'm in that crowd. I mean, um, he moved around a lot. Okay, when he retired from the Arco facility, um, I've been meaning to go back there. There's something I need to retrieve from that property. The house is not there anymore, but anyway, when I went down there, his son Rolf was down there, and he asked his daddy about what happened at the concentration camp, and his daddy told him that he did everything he could and that he was innocent, and he was telling him the truth, and he ended up. His son wanted to have another meeting with him around 1979, and Mengele, we took some bones from the lab, put them in a box, and we gave it to his son and let him know that Mengele had died on the beach. He had had a stroke, but in reality, he just moved on somewhere else. He never died. Um,
So he was not a zombie at this point.
I didn't say he was a zombie. All I said was that the information that he died on the Brazilian beach in 1979 is incorrect. He didn't die. That was a fake. I helped him. Uh, Israeli and
Uh-oh. Jimmy.
him.
There you go.
But I knew all along that he was innocent. That we are being colonized from extraterrestrial races from outer space.
I want to comment about that because there was a regression I did of Oksana, and we were looking into one of these trajectories that I had, and I was working for the Kremlin during World War II, and they had jump rooms where high level SS and the Russians were working together, and in Berlin they had in this underground bunker they had a map of Europe and all the different bloodlines that the ETs, because there were different extraterrestrials down there, the Mantis, the Draco, there's a couple tall whites were involved. So they were all so part of that scorched earth policy between the Nazi Germany and Russia was about getting a hold of these blood samples and slaves.
Well, the Russians definitely have time traveling capability. I found that out when JFK was assassinated. because I called Vladimir Putin, who was a very young kid at that time. He was on the plane. You can't see a picture of him anymore. They thought he was some prime minister's kid or whatever. He was there, so he actually infiltrated the Montauk boys. I've even been to Vladimir Putin's apartment in St. Petersburg. But what makes Vladimir Putin special, he can remote view. That's very rare. And he's like I said, I've been around Val when he was younger. But yeah, they do have time traveling capabilities, but the Germans never worked with the Russians. You have to remember Stalin is the one that went into Poland and killed those 10,000 Polish officers and blamed it on the German army. So Hitler knew that. Hitler was not doing anything that we wouldn't be doing now in the United States. And right now, the United States has millions of people in it that are colonizing, and we're going to be broken up. But we're going to have a big die-off in our population because there's just too many people on Earth. We're going to lose a lot of people in the very near future.
Wow, there's a lot going on tonight, y'all. Okay, so let's we've been going for 2.5 hours, you guys. This has been a really fantastic show tonight. Let's kind of have some final thoughts now on vampires and The Walking Dead. Okay, the reanimated corpses. It's getting kind of late, y'all.
It is
over here on the East Coast. And I know we've got some people are getting a little tired tonight, but I'm having a blast. This has been such a great time. Jimmy, what are some final thoughts on vampires and the reanimated corpses?
Well, I would advise anyone who is listening tonight, don't do what happened down in New Orleans where the 2 paranormal researchers were murdered. Their bodies were drained of blood. That was all covered up. And also, if you misidentify somebody and you kill them, you could find yourself in an electric chair or locked up for life. And it's not about writing a book. Nobody cares about your book. Nobody cares about your movie. It is about what the military can do with the DNA of a vampire. Okay. Now, as far as the living dead is concerned, that did happen. That we do have the capabilities to bring people back, but it's at a great cost. And if you die with a disease or of old age, or you have medical conditions, it's going to come back if you reanimate it. So wow. I don't know now what's going on. I've been gone a while, but I do not, because the time jumps. People may look at me a little differently when they say, "Well, Jimmy has been down Auschwitz, SS. Has been down in concentration camps and in the guard towers and everything." I'm very patriotic. I did what my family did on both sides of the war, and these aliens want us to fight, and they want us to use these nuclear weapons on each other. So it's very important that the prince that's walking around on American soil, Prince Harry, he needs to go home. I knew his mother Diane, but he needs to go home. And I do know what his wife's up to, supporting Black Lives Matter. They never got over losing their 13 colonies, and but unfortunately, the damage is done. I'm not going to prop up the Trump administration. I'm going to stay out of politics, and I would like to turn everything back, reset the timeline before any of these Montauk boys tinkered with it and caused this unsustainable timeline. That's all I have to say.
Fantastic. Yes. We are on a very strange timeline. I have to agree with that, Jimmy. So, absolutely. James, what are your thoughts? Thank you so much for being here tonight and
Certainly.
right in the
Well,
co-chair captain.
yeah.
The captain's
So
chair. Yeah.
so
Captain.
today I went to Lincolnton, North Carolina, to do some research about the Pacers, and I don't going to go too much detail, but I did visit the land where that was located, and there was a bunch of Confederate flags in mobile home park. So I was thinking about how Jimmy said that if the Confederacy won the Civil War, life would be better for most people, I guess. Anyway, we'd have less technology, but we have more money and less war. So, but yeah. Well, go to Super Soldier Talk and check out my channel over there. Unfortunately, I got another strike. Somebody said a bad word, and I'm not going to even say it here. So what I'll tell you is go to my backup channel and also go check me out on Rumble. I think what I should do is upload my file here. I think it's Nikolai Pavlov. He worked at Capstan Yar, so that's what I was talking about. Hey, we're going back and forth between the Kremlin and Berlin. So what I'll do is I'll make a video about this. So if you want it, because it's a couple pages long, and we're almost at we're 2.5 hour mark. So I'll post that later. So can we ask Jimmy? Can you comment how long vampires live? Somebody asked that. That was a great question.
Yeah, good question.
Golden Crisp.
That's a very hard question to answer. My research, you have to remember, we're talking kids that are barely out of high school doing the research in a veterinarian lab, or we're talking about kids cutting open aliens. Those kids have since grown up. Some have become doctors, not veterinarian doctors, but surgeons. Some know how to fly aircraft, because we used to use aircraft to fly around and pick the cattle up and use the lasers on them. Some of our young women have married and started their families. So I don't know if we'll ever have that type of a class again, because we were shunned as an Americans. So I don't know what the motivation is with the research going on now. I do hope that they stay out of politics, that they don't endorse either candidate that is running, and that they keep their religious beliefs to themselves, and prepare for a very dark future. We will have a nuclear war, and it would be much sooner than you think.
I hope we don't do that. I'm trying to strive for a higher timeline than that, but man, that would be tragic. Let's hope that doesn't happen. But wink at me. Thank you for that super chat. That's very sweet of you. It has been a fantastic show. 100%.
Thank you. I just don't know how long. I don't know how long these creatures live. I'm not a vampire hunter. I'm just an MIB caught up in it. Former MIB.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jessica, and thank you, audience members, for listening in.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you guys. And everybody, please go buy James's book. It's called Lone Wolf by James Rink. You guys go pick that up, please. It's fantastic. It tells James has a very interesting life, a very interesting stories, as does Jimmy Paine. Okay, so y'all.
Thank you.
Y'all go support James.
Neologicaltech.com. You also get yourself a meditation cube. You could donate to my nonprofit, healingsoulsurvivors.org, because PayPal, they stole like I think it was $2,200 they took from me. So please go over there and sign up, help support the work I do. Thank you all.
All right. Well, thank you, James. And thank you, Jimmy, so much for being here tonight. Wow. Wow. I mean, I haven't done a 2.5 hour show in a long time. So this has been awesome. I hope that you guys will both come back. We have so many other topics we could discuss. And Jimmy, you're just a wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much for everything you've told us for the past 2 shows that we've had here at the Cryptid Huntress. Jimmy, thank you. And everybody, please come see me this weekend. I'm going to be at Spaced Out Radio every Saturday and Sunday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. Also, I'm going to be releasing season 9 of the Cryptid Huntress on podcast format. This show will be included, so you guys can listen to us in your car, on your boat, on your spacecraft, wherever you're at. If you listen to podcasts, okay? So yeah, wink at me. Thank you for that super chat. That was very sweet of you. We appreciate that here very much. And all right. Well, I guess this is a good night, you guys. Jimmy, thanks again. James, thanks to you, and thank you to all my moderators that were in here tonight. I know we had everybody was pretty decent in our chat tonight, and the moderators. I commend all of you guys for being awesome moderators, and thank you to everybody who was here. And okay, if I can find this button, I got to go put a kid to bed, you guys. So
have a very ghoulish good night.
Everybody have a great night. And thank you for your jokes tonight, James. They were amazing. Okay. We'll see you guys next time. I'll see y'all this weekend. Bye.